One of the things I always try to counsel my clients to think about is to look at your intellectual property strategy as a tool to give you competitive advantage in the marketplace. And you want to weave your intellectual property strategy into your business plan going forward, which means you want to have a good sense of the different types of intellectual property that's available beyond patents. A lot of times people will think, of the patent question as a gating item, go, no go, I either file for patents or I don't. But there's a lot of intellectual property coverage out there that goes beyond patent and can actually do a lot to add to your sustainable competitive advantage. The biggest change I think the economy has had on intellectual property protection, particularly for small and emerging enterprises, is that they need to be much more mindful about the cost associated with developing their intellectual property portfolio. The IP portfolio is definitely a cornerstone in terms of establishing a foundation for funding and developing a competitive advantage that's sustainable relative to other players in the marketplace. But small enterprises often don't have a lot of money to start out with, and with the funding environment the way it's been for the last 18 months, they need to be much more cautious about the money they spend. And so we're having to be much more creative about finding ways to maintain coverage while extending costs out as far as possible. And we're also looking more towards other types of IP that are less expensive to obtain to fill in the overall IP strategy to create a really robust strategy. So in some ways, the bad economy has been good in terms of really forcing people to be much more creative about their IP strategy and much more cost effective. But going forward, we think things will get much better as the economy starts to improve. Well, one of the big things that happened in 2009 as we went from the Bush administration to the Obama administration, we got a new commissioner of patents, Capos, who comes from IBM, so he's an actual patent attorney. He's worked in the field for years and years, and so you're seeing a shift in the way the Patent Office is treating the applicants, which as somebody who represents emerging technologies, it seems to be in a very positive direction. One of the things he did get rid of is these proposed rules that had been put in place limiting continuing applications. And a continuing application for a patent is an application that we will file. If you think of your patent as sort of being a tree with branches and leaves, we file the first case, and then we will often try to keep the case alive for following cases as we watch what's happening in the marketplace, and we file these continuing cases that sort of adjust the claim strategies and how we define the invention. And they had previously suggested eliminating our ability to do that, which for larger enterprises is probably less problematic, but for small enterprises that really rely on their intellectual property as an important part of their business coverage, we were very concerned about that. Another thing that Commissioner Capos has put into effect is something that he is affectionately referring to as the patent equivalent of cash for clunkers. Nobody can say patent attorneys don't have a sense of humor. And that basically means what they're trying to do is they're trying to encourage you to look at your portfolio of cases, and if you have several cases on file, and at the time you filed them, maybe they were relevant, but maybe now commercially 2 or 3 years out, one of them's less relevant than another one. If you go in and abandon one, they'll let you accelerate another one and jump it up in the examination queue, which could be helpful. So it's really meant to encourage applicants to be constantly looking at their portfolio, pruning it, and really moving the most relevant cases forward. Another big change has been the expansion of what's called the patent prosecution highway, which allows you to take advantage of a notice of allowance in certain foreign jurisdictions. We're up to 12 countries now, to advance prosecution of your corresponding U.S. case. There's talk about right now it really benefits foreign applicants, but they're talking about expanding that to have provisions that benefit the U.S. Original application or applicant. And then another important change is changing the examiner quality review process, which is making it they've had sort of an incentive not to allow cases, and so our allowance rate went down into the 40%. And now they're changing the quality incentives, and so the examiners are more likely to allow cases, and we're already seeing an uptick in allowance, which I think really helps the applicants, particularly the small enterprise applicants.